The fluorescent lights in Miller's grocery hummed like angry wasps overhead. Sarah Mitchell stood frozen at register 3, staring down at the pile of coins she'd just dumped onto the counter. Pennies mostly, a few nickels, 3 dimes that looked like they'd been through a washing machine. 1 quarter with Abraham Lincoln's face worn smooth from too many desperate transactions just like this one. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. $4.73. That was it. Everything she had left in the world scattered across cheap laminate like evidence of a crime she couldn't remember committing. Behind the counter, Constance peered over her reading glasses with the kind of look Sarah had seen too many times in the past 6 months. Not quite pity, not quite contempt. Something worse. That blank indifference that said you've already stopped being a person and become a problem instead. "Count it again," Sarah whispered. "Please." Constance sighed loud enough for the whole store to hear. She swept the coins into her palm with exaggerated slowness, making a show of each one. "473, Constance announced. She tapped the can of baby formula. "This is $6.49 plus tax. That's $7.02. Sarah's throat tightened. Everything in the store had edges suddenly, sharp corners she might cut herself on if she moved wrong. "I know," she managed. "I just thought maybe—" "Maybe what?" Constance's voice could have stripped paint. "Maybe I just let you walk out with it. Honey, this isn't a charity." Behind Sarah, someone coughed, impatient. Someone else muttered something she couldn't quite hear, but felt in her spine anyway. Against her chest, Dylan whimpered, 4 months old and burning up with fever in the makeshift sling she'd fashioned from an old bedsheet. "I can put back the wipes," Sarah said quickly. "Just the formula, please. He needs to eat." Constance glanced at the baby, then back at Sarah. Her expression didn't change. "Store policy," Constance said flatly. "Pay or get out." Something broke inside Sarah's chest. This was the final crack in a dam that had been holding back an ocean of shame and desperation and bone-deep exhaustion. Her hands moved on autopilot, gathering the coins back. $4.73. Not enough. Never enough. Dylan's whimper turned into a full cry, thin and reedy and weak. "Shh, baby," Sarah whispered. "It's okay. Mama's going to figure something out." But she had no idea what. The shelter had closed 2 hours ago. The church food bank didn't open until Tuesday. It was Saturday night, February in Montana, which meant 18 degrees outside and snow in the forecast. Sarah turned toward the exit. Each step felt like walking through concrete. She could feel every eye on her back, burning, judging. That's when she heard it. The slow, heavy thud of boots on linoleum. The sound came from the back of the store, each step deliberate, purposeful. The whispers stopped. The whole store seemed to hold its breath. A man emerged from aisle 7. He was massive, at least 6'3", built like someone who'd spent decades turning wrenches and throwing punches. His arms were covered in tattoos that disappeared under a black leather vest. On the back of that vest in bold letters, Hell's Angels Montana chapter. His face was all hard angles and old scars. A thick beard covered his jaw. His eyes were dark and unreadable, but there was something burning behind them. Something that looked almost like recognition. He walked straight toward the checkout. Constance's hand moved toward the phone under the counter. "Reaper, we don't want any trouble." The biker didn't even look at her. His eyes were locked onto Sarah and the baby in her arms. "How much she's short?" His voice was gravel and whiskey. Constance stammered. $2.29, but Reaper, you don't have to." He pulled a worn leather wallet from his back pocket, extracted a $20 bill, slapped it on the counter. Sarah's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The biker still hadn't looked at Constance. His eyes were fixed on Dylan, and something in his expression shifted. Just for a second. Pain, holding deep and buried under years of leather and rage. "That won't be necessary," Sarah finally managed. "I can't accept." "You got diapers?" he asked, cutting her off. "What? Diapers for the kid. Sarah shook her head, stunned. I know. The biker turned and walked back toward the baby aisle without another word. He came back less than a minute later with diapers, wipes, infant Tylenol, and 2 more cans of formula. He dumped everything on the counter. Add it, he told Constance. Reaper, this is add it. His voice didn't rise, but there was steel underneath it. Constance's hand shook as she scanned the items. 43.68. The biker pulled out 3 more 20s. Keep the change. Then he finally looked at Sarah. You got a way to carry all this? Sarah's eyes were burning. I have a backpack at the bus stop. Where you headed? Maple Street. I know it. He started loading items into plastic bags. His hands were surprisingly careful. You taking the 7:15 bus? Sarah nodded. That bus don't run on Saturdays after 6, he said. It's almost 7 now. Sarah's stomach dropped. She'd forgotten. I'll walk. It's only 3 miles. The biker looked at Dylan, then at Sarah's worn sneakers with holes in the toes, then at the dark sky visible through the store windows. It's 18 degrees out there, he said, and supposed to snow. I don't have a choice. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he picked up the grocery bags and started walking toward the exit. Sarah stood there confused until he turned back. You coming or not? Where? To give you a ride home. Sarah's protest died in her throat. She looked down at Dylan, who had finally stopped crying and was making small, hungry sounds against her chest. She thought about walking 3 miles in the freezing cold with the sick baby. She followed him out of the store. The parking lot was nearly empty. The biker led her to a beat-up Ford F-150, had to be 20 years old with rust spots and a crack across the windshield. But when he opened the passenger door, the inside was clean. You safe putting him in your lap? He asked. I don't have a car seat. We'll be fine. Sarah climbed in. The biker placed the grocery bags at her feet, then closed the door and walked around to the driver's side. The truck rumbled to life. Classic rock played softly on the radio. He turned it down almost to nothing. They drove in silence for the first few minutes. Sarah stared out the window, watching the small downtown area of Ridgemont roll past. What's his name? The biker's voice startled her. Dylan. He's 4 months old. He nodded, eyes on the road. He's sick. Fever. I think it's just a cold, but I can't afford to take him to the doctor. There's a free clinic on Washington Street. Opens Monday mornings. Sarah filed the information away. Thank you for the formula and the ride. I don't know how to... Don't. Sarah blinked. Don't what? Don't thank me. His jaw was tight. You shouldn't have to thank anyone for helping you feed your kid. That should just be what people do. But they don't. No, he agreed quietly. They don't. Sarah studied his profile in the dim light. He looked older up close, maybe mid-40s. The scar on his face looked like it had come from something sharp. Can I ask you something? Sarah said. Yeah. Why did you help me? His hands tightened on the steering wheel. Then he spoke, his voice so low she almost didn't hear it. My mom used to count coins like that when I was a kid. Nobody ever helped her. Sarah's throat tightened. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just make sure the kid eats. They turned onto Maple Street. The apartment building came into view. A 3-story brick structure that looked like it was held together by paint and prayers. The biker pulled up to the curb and put the truck in park. Sarah gathered Dylan and the bags, fumbling with the door handle. He reached across and opened it for her. For just a second, his hand brushed against hers. His fingers were rough and warm. Thank you, Sarah said again, because she couldn't help herself. He didn't tell her to stop this time. He just nodded once. Sarah climbed out, balancing Dylan carefully. She was halfway to the building entrance when his voice stopped her. Hey. She turned back. You need anything else, you go to Rusty's bar on 5th Street. Ask for me. They'll know where to find me. Sarah swallowed hard. Okay. She watched as the old Ford pulled away, taillights disappearing into the dark Montana night. Inside her apartment, Sarah laid Dylan on the bed and finally let herself cry. Not from sadness, from the overwhelming relief of knowing that for at least the next few days her baby wouldn't starve. She made a bottle with the new formula. Dylan drank it hungrily, his small hands gripping her fingers. When he finished, she gave him the infant Tylenol, changed his diaper, and held him until his breathing evened out into sleep. Sarah stared at the ceiling, listening to the couple upstairs fighting. She thought about the biker with the scarred face and the quiet eyes. She thought about his mother counting coins. She thought about how one person's pain could sometimes become another person's salvation. And she wondered if Marcus Reaper Kane knew that he'd just saved 2 lives tonight. But 3 floors below, tucked into the building's mailboxes, was an envelope Sarah hadn't seen yet. An eviction notice. 48 hours to pay 2 months back rent or be thrown into the street. Monday morning arrived like a slap to the face. Sarah woke to Dylan's crying and someone pounding on her apartment door. Hard. "Mitchell, open up!" Richard Brennan, the building manager. Sarah pulled on her robe and cracked the door open, keeping the chain lock engaged. "It's 6 in the morning, Mr. Brennan, and you're 2 months behind on rent." Richard shoved a paper through the gap. "You got 48 hours to come up with $1,800 or you're out." Sarah's hands shook as she took the paper. "I already got a notice. You said I had until Wednesday." That was before Mrs. Hartley and 2B paid me 3 months up front to move into your unit. She don't have a screaming baby keeping everyone awake. You're out by Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. sharp. "Mr. Brennan, please. I have a baby. I just need a few more days." "Should have thought about that before you had a kid you couldn't afford." Richard turned and walked away, his keys jingling. Sarah closed the door and slid down against it, the eviction notice crumpling in her fist. Dylan was still crying. The heat had cut out again, and the apartment was freezing. 48 hours. She had 48 hours to find $1,800, or she and Dylan would be on the street. Sarah grabbed her phone. The battery was at 12%. She pulled up the number for Hope House and dialed. "Hope House, this is Evelyn." "Evelyn, hi, it's Sarah Mitchell. Her voice cracked. "I need help." Evelyn's voice softened immediately. "Sarah, honey, what happened?" "I'm being evicted Wednesday morning. I don't have anywhere to go." "All right, breathe for me. Do you have the baby with you?" "Yes, he's 4 months old." "We have space in the family wing. Can you get here today?" Sarah felt hope spark. "Yes, I can take the bus." "Do you have money for the bus?" The hope flickered out. "No." Evelyn sighed. "Honey, I can't come get you. I'm the only one here until noon. But there's a volunteer meeting tonight at 7. If you can make it here by then, we'll get you set up." "Thank you," Sarah whispered. "Thank you so much." She spent the next hour packing everything she owned into 2 garbage bags in a backpack. 26 years of life reduced to what she could carry. Then she remembered the free clinic the biker had mentioned. Dylan's fever had come back during the night worse than before. The walk to Washington Street took 30 minutes. Dylan whimpered the whole way. Sarah sang to him under her breath, the same lullaby her mother used to sing to her. The free clinic was in a converted house with peeling paint. Inside, the waiting room was packed. Sarah approached the reception desk. "Name, Sarah Mitchell. I don't have insurance, but—" "Sliding scale, I know. Fill this out." The exam was quick. Dr. Patterson, a tired-looking man in his 60s, examined Dylan with gentle hands. "Ear infection. Pretty nasty one. I'm going to prescribe antibiotics." Sarah's stomach sank. "How much will that cost?" "About $40 at the pharmacy." $40 might as well have been 4,000. "I don't have $40, Sarah said quietly. Dr. Patterson looked at her for a long moment. Then he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a sample box of antibiotics. "This should be enough for the full course. Keep it." Sarah's eyes burned. "Thank you." The shelter on Oak Street, Hope House, they have a program for single mothers. I'm heading there today. The walk to Hope House took another hour. By the time Sarah saw the building, her feet were numb and Dylan was screaming again. She pushed through the front door. Warmth hit her like a wave. "Can I help you?" A woman stood behind a desk. She was older, maybe 60, with silver hair pulled into a severe bun and eyes that looked like they'd seen too much suffering to be shocked by anything. "I called earlier. Sarah Mitchell." "Sarah, yes, honey. I'm Evelyn." She came around the desk and immediately took one of the garbage bags. "Lord, you walked all the way here." Evelyn led her through a hallway lined with children's drawings. "We have a bed in the family wing. You'll share a room with one other mother, but it's clean and warm. Meals are communal. We have a nurse on staff 3 days a week, and we can help you apply for benefits, find work, get into job training programs." She opened a door. The room was small but clean. 2 twin beds, a crib, a dresser. "That's Jasmine's side. She works nights. Your side is here." Sarah set Dylan down in the crib. He immediately started crying again. "He's got an ear infection. The clinic gave me antibiotics, but let me get you supplies. You rest. The volunteer meeting is at 7. I want you there if you're up for it." When Sarah woke up, it was dark outside. She grabbed Dylan and hurried toward the sound of voices. The room was full of women. At the front, Evelyn was setting up a projector, and in the back corner was the biker from the grocery store. Sarah's breath caught. He wasn't wearing his vest, just a plain black t-shirt and jeans. But even without the leather, he looked out of place. Evelyn clapped her hands. "All right, everyone, let's get started." She introduced several volunteers. Then she gestured to the back corner. "This is Marcus Kane. Marcus and some of his associates have offered to help with building maintenance and repairs." The room went silent. Every woman knew who the Hells Angels were. Marcus stepped forward. He didn't smile. "I'm not here to scare anyone. I'm here because my mother died in a place like this. She died alone because nobody helped her when she needed it most. I can't fix that, but I can make sure the women here have heat that works and doors that lock and a roof that doesn't leak. If that makes you uncomfortable, I get it, but I'm asking you to let me help anyway." Nobody spoke. Then a young woman in the front row raised her hand. "The lock on my room's been broken for 2 weeks. I've been pushing a chair against the door at night." Marcus looked at her. "What room? 12. I'll fix it tomorrow." One by one, the women started talking. Broken things, dangerous things. Marcus pulled out a notebook and wrote everything down. "Now," Evelyn said, "we have one more announcement. Starting next week, we're launching a job training program. If you're interested, see me after the meeting." The meeting ended. Sarah stood to join the line, but Dylan woke up screaming. She tried to calm him, but his cries only got louder. "Let me take him for a minute." Marcus stood behind her. "You need to talk to Evelyn. I'll walk him. Kids like movement." Before Sarah could protest, Marcus gently took Dylan from her arms. He cradled the baby against his chest, then started walking slow circles around the room. Dylan's crying quieted. Sarah went to Evelyn. "I want to sign up for the job training, whatever you have. We've got medical office administration, food service, and early childhood education." Medical office, I took some classes before. Pre-med at U of M, I had a full scholarship, but I had to drop out. Something shifted in Evelyn's expression. "Then you're going to do very well. It starts next Monday, 9 to 3. We provide childcare." Sarah signed the forms with shaking hands. When she turned around, Marcus was still walking Dylan. The baby had fallen asleep against his shoulder. "I can take him now," Sarah said quietly. Marcus transferred Dylan back with careful gentleness. "Kid's got lungs." Sarah hesitated. "Thank you again for everything. You living here now?" "Yeah, I got evicted." Something dark crossed Marcus's face. "Your landlord give you any trouble?" "What? No, I mean yes, but nothing I can't handle." "What's his name?" "Why? Because guys who throw single mothers into the street usually need someone to explain why that's not okay." Marcus, you don't have to. What's his name? Sarah sighed. Richard Brennan. He manages the building on Maple Street. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll have a conversation with him. Please don't hurt him. I'm not going to hurt him. Marcus's smile was sharp. Just going to make sure he understands that evicting mothers with sick babies is bad for business. Before Sarah could respond, another voice cut through the room. Reaper, you coming or what? Marcus glanced at them, then back at Sarah. I gotta go. You need anything, you ask Evelyn to call me. Okay. He started to walk away, then stopped. Sarah, you're stronger than you know. Remember that. He left. Sarah stood there holding Dylan, watching as the bikers disappeared. Around her, the other mothers whispered nervously. Sarah ignored them. She went back to her room and lay down. Friday morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through the shelter's thin curtains. Sarah woke to Dylan cooing softly. For the first time in weeks, he didn't sound sick. The antibiotics were working. She'd spent the past 4 days in a blur, job training every morning, studying at night, tutoring Jasmine in algebra for her GED, slowly finding her rhythm in this new life. Jasmine sat at one of the tables staring at her algebra homework. Still stuck on quadratics? Sarah asked. These letters and numbers are personally attacking me. Sarah sat down. They worked through 3 problems together. Jasmine's frustration slowly melted into understanding. You're really good at this, Jasmine said. I used to tutor back in college. What happened? Why'd you leave? Sarah hadn't planned to talk about it, but something made the words spill out. She told her about the pre-med program, the pregnancy, Dylan's father walking out, her own father, Pastor Garrett Mitchell, calling her a disgrace, throwing her out with nothing. He's a pastor. Jasmine's eyes went wide. Is, I don't know. We haven't spoken in 2 years. They sat in silence. You know what, though, Jasmine said. You're still here. You're still fighting. That takes more strength than getting some degree. Later that morning, Evelyn knocked on Sarah's door. You've got a visitor. Sarah's stomach dropped. Who? Says his name is Warren Mitchell. Claims he's your grandfather. Sarah hadn't seen Warren in 2 years, not since her father had made it clear that anyone who supported Sarah was supporting sin. I'll see him. Warren Mitchell sat in the lobby, hat in his hands. He was 68 but looked older, weathered. He stood when Sarah entered. Sarah, his voice cracked on her name. Grandpa. They stared at each other across the small room. Your father was wrong, Warren said finally. I was wrong for not stopping him. Can I meet him, my great-grandson? Sarah looked down at Dylan, then back at her grandfather. His name is Dylan, and yes. Warren approached slowly. He looked down at the baby and his eyes filled with tears. He has your mother's eyes. God rest her soul. Sarah, I want to help. I have money. No, Sarah's voice was steady. I need to do this myself, but you can know your great-grandson, if you want. I do, more than anything. Then that's enough. They talked for an hour. After he left, Sarah sat holding Dylan, feeling something shift inside her. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of it. That evening, Sarah attended her first job training evaluation. Mrs. Palmer reviewed her work. You're excelling, top of the class. Have you considered going back to school? I can't afford. There are programs, grants, especially for single mothers. I could help you look into it. Sarah's heart jumped. Really? Really, you got something special, Sarah. Don't waste it. Walking back, Sarah felt lighter. Job training going well. Grandfather reconnecting. Dylan healthy. Maybe things were getting better. She opened the door to her room. Jasmine was sitting on her bed holding a piece of paper. Her face was pale. What's wrong? Evelyn just told me. The city inspector came today. Said the building has code violations. We've got 72 hours to evacuate. Sarah read the notice. Immediate shutdown order. Unsafe electrical systems. Fire code violations. This doesn't make sense, Sarah said. Marcus just fixed half this stuff last week. I know. Sarah looked at Dylan sleeping peacefully. 4 days ago, she'd thought things were getting better. She should have known better than to hope. The shutdown notice sat on Evelyn's desk like a death sentence. Sarah stood in the doorway watching Evelyn make phone call after phone call. Each conversation ended the same way. Apologies, sympathy, but no help. They're not going to reverse this, are they? Sarah said. Evelyn took off her reading glasses and rubbed her eyes. No, Fiend. What happens to everyone? Churches can take maybe 10 women. The shelter in Great Falls has room for 5 more. The rest will have to figure it out. Sarah looked down at Dylan. 1 week ago, she'd been counting coins. Now she was trying to save 40 women from the street. When did she become someone who tried to save other people? The answer came quick. The moment Marcus paid for formula. The moment Evelyn gave her a bed. The moment Jasmine taught her how to work the washing machine. People had shown up for her. Now it was her turn. What if we could prove the violations don't exist? Sarah asked. Evelyn looked up. What? Marcus just fixed the electrical system. The fire exits were replaced 3 days ago. Someone from the fire department signed off. The inspector said, the inspector lied. Evelyn was quiet. Then she opened her drawer and pulled out a folder. Inside were inspection reports going back 5 years. Every single one clean. He bribed the inspector, Evelyn said quietly. Can you prove it? No, but I know people who might be able to. Then let's talk to them. The next 3 days were a blur. Sarah spent every spare moment gathering evidence. She interviewed women about repairs, documented every fix with photos, found old reports that contradicted the shutdown order. Jasmine helped using her hospital connections to track down the building inspector's financial records. He'd made interesting cash deposits, same amounts, same timing as Richard Brennan's building inspections. On Tuesday morning, Sarah walked into Legal Aid Montana with a file folder 3 inches thick. Do you have an appointment? No, but I have evidence of municipal corruption and I'm not leaving until someone looks at it. 20 minutes later, Sarah sat across from Rachel Morrison. Mid-30s, sharp eyes, expensive suit. You're Richard Brennan's niece, Sarah said. Rachel's smile was thin. A strange niece. We don't speak. He's a predator who's been exploiting vulnerable tenants for years. She took the folder and started reading. Her expression darkened with each page. This is good work, really good. Where'd you learn to document evidence like this? Pre-med research methodology. You go to school? Used to, University of Montana, full scholarship. Had to drop out when I got pregnant. Rachel looked up. How old's your baby? 4 months. And you put this together in 3 days while taking care of an infant? I had help. I can work with this. I'll file an emergency injunction, get a court hearing scheduled for Friday. But Sarah, my uncle, has friends. This isn't going to be easy. I don't need easy. I need possible. Then we've got a shot. Sarah walked out feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time. Power. The kind that came from refusing to accept what other people said was inevitable. Her phone rang, unknown number. Sarah Mitchell. This is Pastor Nathaniel Cross from St. Michael's Church. Evelyn gave me your number. I understand you're coordinating the legal response. I'm helping, yes. I'd like to help too. I'm thinking we organize a protest Friday morning in front of City Hall, show the judge that people care. Sarah thought about the hearing, Rachel arguing legal technicalities versus 40 single mothers and their children on the courthouse steps. Which story would the news cover? A protest is perfect, Sarah said. That evening, Marcus showed up. He looked tired, jaw tight, knuckles scraped raw. You okay? Sarah asked. Had a conversation with your landlord. Sarah's stomach dropped. Marcus, what did you do? He threw the first punch. I just finished it. Did you hurt him? He's not pressing charges. His wife convinced him it was a bad idea. Marcus's smile was sharp. Because I told him if he pressed charges, my lawyer would subpoena every financial record he has. And the IRS would get real interested in where all those missing security deposits went. Sarah should have been horrified, but all she felt was relief. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Man like Richard doesn't scare easy. He's going to come back hard. Let him. We're ready. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her. You changed. Week ago, you were counting coins, too scared to accept help. Now you're organizing legal battles. I got tired of being scared. Good. Being scared keeps you alive, but being angry gets things done. Marcus stood to leave, then stopped. Sarah, your landlord, said something. Said he got a call from someone who told him to make your life difficult. You got enemies you don't know about. Sarah thought about the past 2 years. I don't know, maybe. We'll figure it out, because someone's paying attention to you, and not in a good way. After he left, Sarah sat holding Dylan. Who would care enough about her to engineer her eviction? Unless it wasn't about her at all. Unless it was about the shelter. About clearing out the poor to make room for something more profitable. Sarah called Rachel Morrison. I need you to look into something. Property records. Who owns the land Hope House sits on? Who's been trying to buy it? Follow the money. You think this is bigger than a dirty inspector? I think Richard Brennan is small time, and small time operators don't move unless someone bigger tells them to. Rachel was quiet. I'll look into it. But Sarah, if this goes higher than we thought, things are going to get dangerous. They're already dangerous. Euros, 40 women are about to be homeless. How much more dangerous can it get? She found out Friday morning at 3:47 a.m. Sarah woke to screaming, not Dylan. This was adult screaming. Terror. Panic. Then she smelled it. Smoke. Sarah grabbed Dylan and ran to the door. The hallway was thick with gray haze. Emergency lights strobed through the darkness. Women were running. Everyone out! Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos. Take the back stairs! Sarah held Dylan against her chest, covering his mouth and nose, and followed the footsteps. The stairwell was packed. Women pushed and shoved. Someone stepped on Sarah's foot. Dylan started screaming, Move, please, move! They spilled out into the parking lot. The cold February air hit like a slap. Sarah gasped, checking Dylan frantically. His face was red, but he was breathing. He was okay. She turned and looked at the building. Flames poured from the first floor windows. Black smoke billowed into the pre-dawn sky. Oh my God. Evelyn was doing a head count. Jasmine, has anyone seen Jasmine? Sarah's blood went cold. Jasmine had called in sick last night, said she'd be sleeping in their room, 3rd floor. No, Sarah breathed. She looked at the burning building. Flames were spreading fast. Evelyn, Sarah's voice came out steady. Take Dylan. She handed the baby to Evelyn. Sarah, what are you? Sarah ran toward the building. Sarah, stop, Evelyn screamed. Sarah didn't stop. Jasmine had helped her practice for interviews, had braided Dylan's hair, had become a friend. She wasn't going to let Jasmine die. Sarah hit the back entrance at a full sprint. The smoke was worse now, thick and black. She pulled her shirt over her mouth and started up the stairs. Her eyes burned. Her lungs screamed. 2nd floor. The fire was spreading. 3rd floor. The hallway was an inferno. Jasmine? No answer. She ran to their room. The door was hot. Sarah kicked it open. Jasmine was on the floor next to her bed, unconscious. Sarah grabbed her under the arms and pulled. Jasmine was heavier than she looked. Dead weight. Sarah's muscles burned, but she didn't stop. She got Jasmine to the hallway. The stairs were blocked. Flames had consumed the back stairwell. They were trapped. The window. Sarah dragged Jasmine to the window and shoved it open. Cold air rushed in. Below the parking lot looked impossibly far away. 3 stories. Sarah stuck her head out. Help, someone help. Then she heard it, the roar of motorcycle engines. Three bikes tore into the parking lot. Marcus jumped off before his bike stopped. He looked up, saw Sarah, and his face went white. Get back. Jasmine's unconscious. I can't get her down. Marcus turned to Ryder and another biker. Get blankets. Move. He ran to the building and disappeared inside. Sarah could hear him pounding up the stairs. Then his voice closer. Sarah, where are you? End of the hall. Marcus emerged from the smoke. His face was streaked with soot. His arms were burned, but his eyes were fierce. He dropped to his knees next to Jasmine and checked her pulse. She's breathing. Barely. We're trapped. Marcus looked at the window, then at Jasmine, then back at Sarah. I'm going to lower her down. You hold her legs. On 3, we push her through. Ryder and Snake will catch her. That's 3 stories. You got a better idea. Sarah didn't. They positioned Jasmine at the window. Marcus gripped her under the arms. Sarah held her legs. 1, Sarah's hands were shaking. 2, this was insane. 3, they pushed Jasmine through the window. She fell. Sarah couldn't watch. She squeezed her eyes shut. No scream came. She looked down. Ryder and the other biker had caught her. They were lowering Jasmine to the ground. Your turn, Marcus said. What? You're going out that window. Not without you. Sarah, don't argue. This floor is going to collapse in 2 minutes. Then we both go. I can't catch you and get out myself. Then lower me down and climb down after. There's nothing to climb. Then jump. From 3 stories, I'll break both legs. The ceiling groaned. A section collapsed in sparks and burning wood. Marcus grabbed Sarah's face with both hands. His palms were hot, rough. Listen to me. You have a son. He needs his mother. You are going out this window right now. You understand? Tears streamed down Sarah's face. Marcus, please. I'll figure something out. He lifted her to the windowsill. Go. I can't leave you. You have to. He pushed her through. Sarah fell. Wind rushed past. Then Ryder and Snake caught her. The impact knocked the air from her lungs, but nothing broke. Sarah immediately tried to run back. Ryder grabbed her. You can't go back in there. Marcus is still inside. She struggled, screaming Marcus's name. Other women were crying. Evelyn was on the phone with 911. Jasmine was coughing, coming back to consciousness. Sarah looked up at the 3rd floor window. Marcus appeared in the frame. Smoke poured around him. He looked down at the drop, then back at the flames advancing toward him. He was too far to jump. Do something, Sarah screamed. Ryder's eyes went wide. Snake, get the truck. Snake sprinted to a pickup. He jumped in and drove it directly under Marcus's window. Jump onto the truck bed. We'll break your fall. Marcus looked at the truck. Still at least a 12-foot drop. He'd hit hard, but it was the only chance. Behind him, the flames reached the window. The heat warped the air. Marcus climbed onto the ledge. Don't think about it, Snake yelled. Just jump. Marcus jumped. He fell, hit the truck bed with a sound that made Sarah's stomach turn. His body bounced once, then went still. Marcus, Sarah broke free and ran to the truck. Marcus was lying on his back, eyes closed, blood trickling from his nose. For one terrible moment, Sarah thought he was dead. Then his eyes opened. Did we get everyone out? Sarah laughed and cried at the same time. You crazy bastard. You could have died. That's not an answer. Everyone's out. Everyone's safe. Marcus nodded, tried to sit up, gasped and fell back. Ribs. Definitely broke some ribs. Fire trucks screamed into the parking lot. Paramedics swarmed. I'm fine, Marcus protested. Check the other women first. Sir, you jumped from a 3rd-story window. You're going to the hospital. They loaded him onto a stretcher. Sarah tried to follow, but a paramedic stopped her. Family only. I'm his... Sarah stopped. What was she? She's with me, Marcus's voice from inside the ambulance. Let her in. Sarah climbed in. The doors slammed shut. The ambulance pulled away from Hope House, from the burning building that had been her home. Inside, a paramedic worked on Marcus. Oxygen mask, IV line, blood pressure cuff. Marcus's hand found Sarah's. His grip was weak but steady. Dylan, he okay? Evelyn's got him. He's fine. Marcus closed his eyes. Good. Marcus, the fire. Do you think it was an accident? His eyes opened. Even through the pain, she could see the answer. No, Richard, Sarah whispered. Marcus squeezed her hand. Don't talk about it here. At the hospital, they took Marcus straight to radiology. Sarah sat in the waiting room and called Evelyn. How is he? They think he broke 3 ribs. Maybe a concussion, but he'll be okay. Thank God. Sarah, the fire marshal's here. Says the fire started in the basement, near the electrical panel. Looks suspicious. They found evidence of accelerant, gasoline. Sarah's free hand clenched. It was Richard. We don't know that. Yes, we do. Even if that's true, we need proof. I'll get proof. Sarah don't do anything stupid. But Sarah had already hung up. She found Ryder in the hospital cafeteria. I need your help, Sarah said. Getting proof that Richard Brennan set that fire. That's police business. The police aren't going to do anything. Richard's connected. He's going to walk away from this. So what do you want me to do? Help me break into Richard's house and find it evidence. Ryder nearly spit out his coffee. You're crazy. Maybe. But I'm also right. You know it was him. We just need proof. They stared at each other. Ryder sighed. Marcus is going to kill me. Marcus doesn't need to know. If we do this, we do it my way. You follow my lead. And if something goes wrong, you run. Deal, Sarah nodded. Deal. Give me 2 hours. Meet me at Pine and 4th. 2 hours later, Sarah stood on the corner. Ryder pulled up. Get in. They drove 3 blocks and parked. Ryder handed Sarah latex gloves and a flashlight. Put these on. Don't touch anything without gloves. We're looking for anything that connects him to the fire. They approached from the back. Ryder picked the lock in 30 seconds. Inside Richard's house was a mess. Dishes piled in the sink. The whole place smelled like stale beer. Ryder pointed to the kitchen. You take down here. Sarah started searching. She went through drawers, cabinets, the trash, nothing useful. Then she opened the coat closet. A jacket hung on a hook. It reeked of gasoline. Sarah's hands shook as she pulled out her phone and took a picture. Then she checked the pockets. A receipt, dated yesterday, from a gas station. 3 gallons of premium. In a can, Sarah photographed the receipt. Then she heard footsteps upstairs. Heavy footsteps. Not Ryder's. Richard was home. Sarah's heart hammered. She shoved the receipt back and ducked behind the kitchen counter. The footsteps came down. A light clicked on. Richard walked into the kitchen. He opened the refrigerator and grabbed a beer. Sarah held her breath. Richard popped the beer. Turned. He froze. The back door was still open. Just a crack. What the hell? Richard moved toward it. Sarah had 2 choices, hide or run. She ran. She burst from behind the counter and sprinted for the door. Richard yelled, threw his beer. It shattered against the wall next to her head. Sarah hit the door and kept running. Behind her, Richard was cursing, chasing. She rounded the corner. Ryder was running toward her. Go! They ran together. Behind them, Richard was screaming, I'll kill you! They reached the car. Ryder peeled out. They didn't stop until they were 5 miles away. Did you get anything? Ryder finally asked. Sarah held up her phone. Gasoline-soaked jacket, receipt for gas in a can. Ryder's eyebrows shot up. You're kidding. I'm not. Ryder started laughing. Then Sarah started laughing. The adrenaline and terror and triumph crashing together. When they calmed down, Ryder looked at her. You know Richard's going to tell the cops someone broke in. Let him. He can't prove it was us. And once the fire marshal sees this evidence, Richard's going to have bigger problems. Sarah pulled out her phone and started making calls. She sent the photos to the fire marshal, to the police, to the local news. By the time the sun came up, Richard Brennan was in handcuffs. The news ran the story all day. Arson, attempted murder, destruction of property. Sarah sat in Marcus's hospital room and watched with him. "You broke into his house," Marcus said. "I did what needed to be done. That was stupid and dangerous. So was jumping out of a third-story window." Marcus couldn't argue. He reached for her hand. "You could have gotten hurt." "But I didn't. And now Richard's going to prison." They sat in silence watching the news. Finally, Marcus spoke. "The charity ride, it's still happening. Tomorrow, we're using it to raise money to rebuild." "Marcus, you just broke 3 ribs." "I'm not riding. Snake's driving me in a truck. But I'm going to be there, and so are 300 other bikers." Sarah's eyes widened. 300. Word got out. About the fire, people want to help. "That's incredible." "It's necessary. That shelter meant something. We're going to rebuild it, better than before." Sarah felt tears welling. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." But Sarah knew they would, because she'd learned something. When broken people came together, not because they were forced to, but because they recognized their own pain, in someone else's eyes, they could build something stronger than anything that had broken them. Richard Brennan had tried to destroy that. He'd failed. And tomorrow, 300 bikers were going to prove exactly how badly he'd failed. Saturday morning arrived cold and clear. Sarah woke to the sound of motorcycle engines in the distance. Today was the mother's run. She checked her phone. Messages from Evelyn, from Ryder, everyone confirming details. Sarah looked down at her leg, still in a cast from the fire 2 weeks ago. Broken tibia. Could have been worse. She transferred to the wheelchair Evelyn had borrowed, got Dylan changed and fed, put on clean clothes. By 7 a.m., Sarah was wheeling herself toward downtown Ridgemont. Dylan bundled in a carrier strapped to her chest. Ahead, she could see them gathering. Motorcycles, dozens at first, then hundreds, streaming in from every direction. The sound was deafening, a wall of chrome and leather and American flags. Sarah reached the town square and stopped. There had to be 500 bikes already, more arriving every minute. "Sarah," Evelyn appeared through the crowd. "How many?" Sarah asked. 532 at last count, still coming from Idaho and Wyoming. Evelyn's voice cracked. "I've never seen anything like this." "Where's Marcus?" "Over by the stage." Sarah wheeled herself toward the temporary stage. Vendors were setting up. Someone was testing a sound system. Children ran between the motorcycles. She found Marcus standing next to Snake's truck. He looked terrible, face pale, moving stiff, but his eyes were clear. "You shouldn't be here," Sarah said. "Neither should you." Marcus gestured to her wheelchair. "Looks like we both have a problem with following doctor's orders." They stood there just looking at each other, 2 broken people who'd found something worth fighting for. "Your father's here," Marcus said quietly. Sarah's breath caught. "What?" "Pastor Garrett Mitchell showed up an hour ago, said he heard about the fire, said he needed to see you." Sarah's hands tightened on her wheelchair. She hadn't seen her father in 2 years. "Where is he?" "Church tent, north side." Sarah looked down at Dylan. 5 months old now. He had her father's nose, her mother's eyes, everything her father had rejected. "Will you come with me?" she asked Marcus. "You sure?" "I'm sure." They made their way through the crowd. People called out to Sarah, women from Hope House, volunteers, strangers who'd seen her story on the news. The church tent was quiet, a few folding tables, coffee urns, boxes of donuts. Pastor Garrett Mitchell stood by the back entrance. He'd aged, more gray in his hair, lines around his eyes. He wore his clerical collar, black shirt. He saw Sarah and froze. For a long moment, neither moved. Then Garrett took a step forward, stopped, started to speak, stopped. Sarah wheeled herself closer. Marcus stayed a few steps behind. Hi, Dad. Garrett's face crumpled. Sarah, I saw on the news about the fire, about what you did. Someone needed help. You could have died. But I didn't. Garrett looked down at Dylan, his grandson. May I? Sarah wanted to say no, wanted to make him hurt, but she thought about Warren, how that moment of humility had begun to heal something she thought was broken forever. His name is Dylan. He's 5 months old. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. And Garrett's hands shook as he reached for the baby. Dylan looked up at him with those huge blue eyes, made a small cooing sound. He has your mother's eyes. God rest her soul. I know. Sarah, I need to tell you that I was wrong. Sarah had imagined this moment 1,000 times. In all those versions, she'd been angry. But sitting there watching her father cry, all she felt was tired. I chose pride over love, Garrett continued. His voice was shaking. I chose my reputation over my own daughter. I told myself I was upholding God's law, but I was just being a coward. And I'm sorry, Sarah, I am so deeply sorry. Dylan reached up and grabbed Garrett's finger, held on tight. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, Sarah said quietly. Not completely, but I'm willing to try, for Dylan's sake. He deserves to know his family. Garrett nodded. He was crying openly. May I baptize him when you're... I know I have no right to ask, yes. Garrett looked up. Yes. Yes, you can baptize him. Not because I've forgiven you, because Dylan deserves to be welcomed into a faith community, and because my mother would have wanted it. Thank you. They talked for another 20 minutes. Garrett told her about Warren, how they'd slowly started speaking again. Sarah told him about Hope House, about the job training, about her plans to go back to school. Finally, Evelyn appeared. Sarah, we're starting in 10 minutes. Sarah nodded. She took Dylan back from Garrett. Will you stay for the rally? If you want me to. I do. The crowd had grown even larger, 600 or 700 people. They had closed off Main Street. The sound of idling engines was like thunder. Sarah wheeled herself up a ramp to the stage. Someone had set up a podium with a microphone. Behind her, a banner read, Mother's Run, Rebuilding Hope. Marcus climbed up carefully. He took the microphone first. Most of you know me. I'm Marcus Kane. Some people call me Reaper. I've done bad things, been in prison, made mistakes I can't take back. But 2 months ago, I walked into a grocery store and saw a woman counting coins because she couldn't afford to feed her baby. And I remembered my mother. I remembered how the world let her die alone because nobody thought she mattered. The crowd was silent, every eye on Marcus. That woman was Sarah Mitchell. She reminded me that the strongest thing you can do isn't throwing a punch. It's showing up. It's caring when it's easier not to. These mothers aren't asking for charity. They're asking for a chance. And if we can't give them that, what are we fighting for? Applause erupted, not polite applause, the kind that came from the chest. Marcus stepped aside. This woman taught me what courage really means. Sarah. Sarah wheeled herself to the microphone. Dylan was asleep against her chest. She looked out at the crowd, hundreds of faces. For a moment, Sarah couldn't speak. Then she looked down at Dylan, thought about that night in the grocery store, counting $4.73. 6 months ago, Sarah began. Her voice was quiet, but the microphone carried it. I was counting coins in this town. I had 87 cents to my name. Not enough for formula, not enough for dignity, just enough to feel the weight of every mistake that had led me there. She paused. I thought about giving up my son because I believed I wasn't enough for him. But I learned something. Strength isn't never falling down. It's getting back up. Every single time. Her voice grew stronger. These mothers you see here, we're not broken. We're builders. We build families from nothing. We build hope from despair. We build futures from ashes. And today we're building something this town is going to remember. We're building proof that people like us, people the world forgot about, we matter. The crowd was cheering. When Hope House burned down, someone thought they could erase us. They were wrong. We're still here. We're still standing. And with your help, we're going to rebuild that shelter 3 times bigger and twice as strong. Because that's what we do. We build. We endure. We survive. Sarah's voice cracked. So thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for proving that this world still has kindness in it. Thank you for reminding me that I'm stronger than I knew, braver than I imagined, and more loved than I ever believed possible. And thank you for teaching me that salvation doesn't come from never needing help. It comes from being brave enough to accept it when it's offered. The applause was deafening. People were crying, cheering, engines revved. Evelyn stepped up next, announced they'd already raised $60,000. Local businesses had pledged ongoing support. The new Hope House would have 50 beds, a medical clinic, job training facilities. And now, Evelyn said, let's ride. The motorcycles rumbled to life, 500 plus engines creating a sound that shook the buildings. Sarah couldn't ride, but Snake had rigged his truck bed with benches. Sarah sat in the back with Dylan and several other women. Marcus sat up front, barely mobile, but refusing to miss this. The procession started, 500 motorcycles streaming through Ridgemont. They rode past the ruins of Hope House, past City Hall, past the grocery store where this started. People lined the streets, holding signs, cheering. Some were crying. By the time the count came in that evening, the Mother's Run had raised $147,000, more than enough to rebuild. 5 days later, Sarah sat in the county jail visiting room. Richard Brennan looked small behind the plexiglass, diminished. His comb-over was disheveled. His orange jumpsuit hung loose. He picked up the phone when Sarah did. Why are you here? Because Rachel Morrison told me you wanted to talk. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Because I owe you an explanation, maybe an apology. I'm listening. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Vincent Cross offered me money, said he'd wipe out my debts if I helped clear that property. I thought, what's the harm? But then your biker friend broke my nose, made me angry, and Cross suggested a small fire would speed things along. I thought just the basement, just smoke damage. I didn't think anyone would get hurt. Richard's hand shook. But they did. You almost died. That other woman could have died. I watched the news, saw what you did. She was my friend. I don't have friends like that. I don't have friends at all anymore. My wife left. My daughter won't speak to me. I'm going to prison for 15 to 20 years. Sarah should have felt satisfaction, but all she felt was sad. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to make it right, as much as I can. Richard pulled out a piece of paper, pressed it against the glass. I've instructed my lawyer to return every security deposit I stole, $87,000. It's all going to Hope House. Sarah's breath caught. And I'm testifying against Vincent Cross. Everything he did, everything he planned. Rachel says with my testimony, they can bring charges. Why would you do that? Because I'm already going to prison. But maybe I can take him with me. Maybe I can do one good thing before I rot in here. Sarah looked at this broken man, this small, greedy, frightened man who'd almost killed her because he was too weak to stand up to someone more powerful. She should hate him. Maybe she did, but she also understood him. I forgive you, Sarah said quietly. Richard's eyes widened. What? I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, because I deserve to stop carrying around anger that's poisoning me. I don't understand. You will someday. Sarah stood. Do the right thing, Richard. Testify against Cross. Help Rachel build her case. Maybe you can't undo what you did, but you can make sure he doesn't do it to anyone else. She hung up the phone and walked out. Behind her, Richard sat alone, crying, 6 months later. The new Hope House stood on the same lot, but it looked nothing like the building that had burned. 3 stories of modern construction, energy-efficient windows, a medical clinic on the first floor, job training center on the second, 50 beds with private bathrooms, a playground out back. The sign out front read, Evelyn Blackwood Hope House, where mothers build futures. Sarah stood in the lobby wearing business casual clothes from Goodwill. Dylan was 11 months old now, walking with assistance, babbling constantly. You ready? Evelyn asked. Sarah looked around. Women were moving in, unpacking, getting oriented. The same mixture of hope and fear Sarah remembered. Yeah, I'm ready. They walked outside. A crowd had gathered. Local officials, donors, media, and bikers. Marcus and his crew in force. Pastor Nathaniel Cross gave a blessing. The mayor gave a speech. Several women from the old Hope House shared their stories. Then it was Sarah's turn. She stepped to the podium, Dylan on her hip. No wheelchair anymore. Her leg had healed completely. 7 months ago, Sarah said, I walked into the old Hope House with everything I owned in 2 garbage bags. I was broken, desperate, convinced I'd failed. Today, I'm the outreach coordinator. I'm a part-time student at Montana State working toward my nursing degree. I'm rebuilding relationships with my family, and I'm proof that your worst day doesn't define your future. She looked out at the crowd. This building isn't just brick and mortar. It's possibility. It's second chances. It's proof that when we show up for each other, when we refuse to let each other fall through the cracks, we can build something beautiful out of broken pieces. Dylan grabbed the microphone. The crowd laughed. Sarah smiled. My son wants to say something. Dylan, what do you think? Dylan babbled enthusiastically, completely incomprehensible but utterly confident. He says thank you, Sarah translated. More laughter. But seriously, thank you. To everyone who donated, everyone who rode, everyone who showed up. You saved us. And now we get to spend the rest of our lives saving other people. That's the legacy we're building here. After the speeches, Sarah gave tours. Marcus found her in the hallway. You did good, he said. We did good. Marcus handed her an envelope. This is for you. Inside was a check, $5,000. Marcus, I can't. It's not from me. It is from your grandfather, Warren, for your nursing school fund. Sarah's eyes burned. Tell him thank you. Tell him yourself. He's here. Brought your father too. Sarah found Warren and Pastor Garrett in the lobby. You came. Wouldn't miss it, Warren replied. Pastor Garrett held out a small Bible. I thought for Dylan when he's older, he might want this. It was your mother's. Sarah took the Bible. Her mother's handwriting was visible in the margins. Thank you, Dad. I'm sorry I wasn't there before. You're here now. That's what matters. Dylan reached for his grandfather. Garrett took him carefully, walked him around the lobby, talked to him in that gentle voice people use with babies. Sarah watched them. 3 generations, broken and rebuilt. Not perfect, but present. That evening after the crowds had gone, Sarah sat in her small office, going through applications, reading stories that sounded painfully familiar. A knock on the door. Come in, Jasmine entered. She graduated from her GED program, was now enrolled in a medical assistant program, working part-time at the shelter. You got a minute? Always. There's someone here, young woman, 19, has a 3-month-old, says she saw you on the news, drove 8 hours from Spokane. We have beds available. 2. Then let's get her checked in. Sarah followed Jasmine to the intake area. A young woman sat on the couch, thin, exhausted, baby in her arms, 2 garbage bags at her feet. Sarah sat down next to her. Hi, I'm Sarah Mitchell. Welcome to Hope House. The woman looked at her with eyes that held too much pain for 19 years. I don't have any money, but I saw you on TV and I thought maybe you'd understand. Sarah reached out and squeezed her hand. I understand completely. What's your name? Amanda, and this is Riley. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Riley. Sarah smiled. Here's what's going to happen. Jasmine is going to show you to your room. You're going to get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk about the rest. Job training, benefits, childcare, whatever you need. But tonight you just rest. You're safe now. Amanda started crying. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to thank me. Just promise me something. What? Someday when you're where I am now, when you've got your feet under you, promise me you'll help the next Amanda who walks through that door. Amanda nodded. I promise. Sarah watched Jasmine lead Amanda and Riley upstairs. Another mother, another story, another chance. She walked to the front doors, looked out at the parking lot. Marcus's truck was still there. He leaned against it, smoking a cigarette, waiting. Sarah walked out. Thought you'd gone home, she said. Wanted to make sure you were okay. I'm more than okay. They stood in comfortable silence. You know what's funny, Sarah said. 6 months ago, I was the one who needed saving. Tonight, I saved someone, and it felt like completing a circle. That's what this is, a circle. People help you. You help other people. They help someone else. It keeps going. Sounds like you've been thinking about philosophy. Sounds like you've been rubbing off on me. Sarah laughed. God help us both. Marcus crushed out his cigarette. I'm proud of you. Your mom would be proud too. Your mom would be proud of you too. Maybe, hope so. Marcus opened his truck door. I gotta go, but Sarah, you did it. Took your worst day and turned it into something that's going to help hundreds of people. That's strength. I had help. We all need help. That's the point. He drove away. Sarah stood in the parking lot for a few more minutes. The Montana night was cold but clear. Stars visible like they never were in cities. She thought about that night in the grocery store, counting $4.73, believing it was all she'd ever have. She'd been wrong. She'd had everything she needed all along. She just hadn't known how to see it yet. Courage, resilience, the ability to accept help and to give it, the strength to fall down and get back up. Those things had always been there. Marcus had just helped her find them. Sarah looked up at the new building, at the lights in the windows, at the families inside starting their journeys towards something better. She pulled out her phone and called the grocery store, asked if they were hiring, applied for a part-time cashier position, because she wanted to work the register, wanted to be there when the next woman counted coins and came up short, wanted to be the one who said, I've got this, let me help. The circle completing itself. 2 weeks later, Sarah started her first shift at Miller's Grocery. Same store, same register where she'd stood 7 months ago. But everything was different now. She worked the evening shift, fit around her coordinator job and her online nursing classes. It was exhausting, but it was also exactly where she needed to be. On her third shift, it happened. A young woman approached Sarah's register, maybe 22, baby in a carrier, tired eyes, worn clothes. She placed formula on the counter, then started pulling coins from her pocket. Sarah felt something shift in her chest. The woman counted, slowly, carefully. 538, she said finally. Her voice was shaking. How much is the formula? Sarah scanned it. 649 plus tax. 702. The woman's face fell. Thought it was on sale. I'm sorry, I'll put it back. Sarah looked at her, really looked at her, saw herself 7 months ago, saw every woman who'd ever been in this impossible position. Hold on, Sarah said. She pulled out her own wallet, took out $2, put them on the counter. What are you doing? The woman asked. Helping, same way someone helped me once. Sarah bagged the formula, added a box of diapers from the shelf behind her, scanned her employee discount card. You need anything else? Wipes Tylenol. I can't afford, not asking if you can afford it, asking if you need it. The woman started crying. Sarah came around the counter, put her hand on the woman's shoulder. Listen to me. Whatever you're going through right now, whatever brought you to this register, counting coins, it's not permanent. It feels permanent. I know, but it's not. How do you know? Because I stood exactly where you're standing 7 months ago in this store at this register, and someone showed me that the world still had kindness in it. Sarah wrote something on the back of her receipt. This is the address for Hope House. It's a shelter for single mothers. They have beds, job training, people who will help you figure out what comes next. I'm not homeless. I'm staying with my sister, but she's about to kick me out. Then you're about to be homeless, and that's exactly who Hope House is for. Women like us, before we hit rock bottom, while we still have the strength to climb back up. The woman took the receipt, looked at it, then at Sarah. Why are you doing this? Sarah thought about Marcus, about Evelyn, about every person who'd shown up for her when she had nothing left to give. Because someone did it for me, and someday when you're back on your feet, you'll do it for someone else. That's how this works. That's how we survive. The woman left with her formula and diapers and a piece of paper that might change her life. Sarah went back to scanning groceries. The next customer was an older man. Had to be 65. He watched the whole exchange. That was a good thing you did, he said as Sarah rang up his purchases, just paying it forward. Not many people do that anymore. Then maybe we need to start. All of us. The man smiled. My wife volunteers at that shelter you mentioned. Says it's doing real good work. Says there's a young woman running their outreach program. Used to be homeless herself. Sarah felt her face heat. That's me. Figured. The way you talk to that girl, that came from experience. He pulled out his wallet, took out a business card. I own a medical supply company. If you're serious about nursing school, call me when you graduate. We're always looking for good people, and good people are the ones who remember what it's like to struggle. Sarah took the card. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me why I started my business. To help people. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. You just reminded me. That night, Sarah drove home to the small apartment she'd finally been able to afford. One bedroom, small kitchen, but it was hers. She'd earned it. Dylan was asleep in his car seat. She carried him inside, put him in his crib, stood there for a long moment just watching him breathe. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Saw you working at the grocery store tonight. You know you don't have to do that, right? Sarah smiled and texted back. I know, but I want to be there for the next woman who counts coins. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Your mom would be proud. Mine too. Sarah looked around her apartment, at the nursing textbooks on the coffee table, at the Hope House work files on her desk, at the photos on the wall, her and Dylan, her and Evelyn, Marcus holding Dylan at the grand opening. She thought about that night 7 months ago, standing in a grocery store with 87 cents, believing she'd failed at everything that mattered. She'd been wrong. She hadn't failed. She'd been tested, broken down, rebuilt stronger. And now she got to spend the rest of her life helping other women do the same. Sarah picked up her phone one more time, opened her notes app, started writing. Dear Mom, I know you can't read this, but I need to tell you, anyway, I'm okay. Better than okay. I'm becoming the woman you always believed I could be. The one who helps instead of just needing help. The one who shows up instead of running away. I'm still scared sometimes. Still struggling, still figuring it all out. But I'm not alone anymore. And neither is Dylan. We have family. Real family. The kind that shows up when things are hard. I think you'd like them. I think you'd especially like Marcus. He's the one who saved me when I couldn't save myself. And then he taught me how to save other people. That's the gift he gave me. Not money or things, but purpose. The knowledge that my pain doesn't have to be wasted, that it can be transformed into something that helps someone else. So thank you, Mom, for raising me to believe that people matter, even when the world tells them they don't, especially then. I love you, Sarah. She saved the note, added it to the collection she'd been keeping, letters to her mother, to her former self, to the woman she was becoming. Then she closed her laptop and went to bed. Tomorrow she'd wake up early, get Dylan ready, drop him at the Hope House child care, work her coordinator shift, attend her online nursing lecture, work the evening shift at the grocery store. It would be exhausting. It would be hard. But it would be hers, a life she'd built from nothing, a life with purpose and meaning and the profound knowledge that she mattered, that mothers like her mattered, that their stories mattered, and that sometimes the difference between giving up and getting up was as simple as one person showing up at exactly the right moment and saying, "Let me help." Sarah had been that person for someone tonight. Tomorrow she'd do it again, and the day after that, for as long as it took, because that was what survivors did. They survived, and then they helped others do the same. The circle continuing, unbroken, expanding outward like ripples on water. One woman, one baby, one act of kindness at a time.